So one final thing to discuss in this part is how to add objects to a scene, how to duplicate them, how to delete them, etc. So we've got an empty scene here, and in order to add an object, I press Shift A, which will bring up the Add menu. And this menu contains all the different object types that are available within Blender. So there's simple geometric objects like a cube or a cone, but also things like text, an image, a light, or a camera. So for example, let's add a cube. Now the cube gets placed at the position of this white red object, and this is called the 3D cursor. And it has a position and an orientation within the scene. It's not really an object that is visible in a render, for example, but it's used in all kinds of operations. And the 3D cursor position is visible within the numeric settings under View over here. So we can move it around just like a normal object. You can transform it, etc. To reset the 3D cursor to the origin, you press Shift C. That will move the cursor to the origin, but also zoom in on all the objects in the scene. So now that we place the cube there, we can duplicate it. We have it selected and press Shift D, and that will create a copy of the object and enter translation mode. And as you can see, simply by moving the mouse, we can move the duplicated object somewhere else. This also works with multiple objects, so we select 2 of them, press Shift D, and then we get 2 more of these cubes. So one thing to note, if we look at the outliner up here, we started with this cube called cube, and then we duplicated it and we did not specify a name, but Blender automatically added .001 when it created the first copy. And then the second copy became .002. So one of the things within a Blender scene is that every object needs to have a unique name, and Blender will make sure that the names are unique. So for example, if I rename this object called cube into cube 001, what happens? It actually gets renamed into cube.004 automatically. To delete an object, there's 2 shortcut keys that you can use. The first is after selecting an object, you press X. That will show a delete confirmation box in order to make sure that you really want to delete the object. If you click delete, it's gone. And the other is after selecting an object, you press delete, and then it deletes the object without confirmation. Of course, Blender has undo, so the normal Ctrl Z shortcut key is there to undo, and to redo is Ctrl Shift Z. So I can redo, for example, these deletions that I just did. So one final thing to mention about the 3D cursor. You can not only position it using the numeric values over here, you can also use Shift right mouse button click on an object, for example this one, to place it on top of the object. So it does an intersection under the mouse cursor with the geometry that's there, and then it places the 3D cursor at that position. So we can add a cone, for example, over there. You can see that the center of the cone is placed at the cursor position. If we press Shift right mouse button again on the top of the cone, that's where the 3D cursor moves.